Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Om Vishnu Par Paramahansa Prabhakacharya Śrīmad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Nanjana Salakaya Chachururmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamaya Dadhati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Nishta Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sujitam Savetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Shra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Vaisheshika Sarikari Kiramine Nama Prahasaya Shilaya Prabhupada Nusarine Anititare Tasmai Shastra Bhajana Chodane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paschatadi Shatadine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulankai Jatigirim Yakripatam Hambande Shri Guru Niratharanam. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Thursday morning Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class. Reading from Preaching is the Essence. Prahlad's prayer for delivering all conditioned souls. O best of great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. My dear Lord Nrsingadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or to the forest to meditate with vows of silence. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone. Leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals, I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. And therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada was very much in this mood of Prahlad Maharaj. He left his nice, you could say, exceptionally great situation in Vrindavan to come to the most degraded place to give Krishna consciousness. As you're hearing Prahlad Maharaj say, he knows that these fools and rascals cannot be happy otherwise, and they don't have Krishna consciousness. And the Brihad-Bhagavatamrita Prahlad Maharaj is glorified as being a greater devotee of even the Vaikuntha Vasis, of even Mahalakshmi herself. And why is it said there? It's said that because Prahlad Maharaj, the Lord glorifies his devotees that are preaching in this material world because they are developing a sense of compassion more deeply than those eternally liberated souls in Vaikuntha. And because of this, the Lord shows a special favor to his devotees, especially to Prahlad Maharaj. We saw Nrsingadev, who can read in the 7th canto. Nrsingadev was offering benedictions to Prahlad, but he was saying, "My Lord, I want no benedictions. The only thing I pray for is that no material desires be manifested within my heart." And then he says, and he goes on to speak this, and he goes, I don't wish to be liberated alone. I wish to remain here in the cities to liberate all these fools and rascals. But it's out of compassion. He's saying rascal. Actually, the word rascal just means, if you look up the dictionary definition, rascal means non-principled. So you see, people, they have no principles, generally speaking. Illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling are their principles. That's their 4 regular principles, to do these 4 things. But that's what rascal means. So we see Prabhupada, at times they say Prabhupada liked to use this word, but because he was using it in the correct context. And people in the Western countries are rascals, myself included. So, any thoughts? Any points there? No? I'll go on then. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading.
Sorry, I'll say it at the end of the class.
Okay. Today we're reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, which is entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. And we will be picking up on text 8. For approaching the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, these are prayers by Sanatana Goswami, the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, the Bhagavatam Mahima Sutra, glorification of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Sarva Shastribhi Phulasya, Sarva Vedhaka Satphala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaya, Sarva Lokaika Trikpada, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabhu, Kali Dhvanto Ditya, Shri Krishna Parvivartita. O Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, you are the most prominent transcendental fruit of the Vedas and are enriched with the jewels of all philosophical conclusions. You grant spiritual vision to all people of the world and are the very life breath of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. Actually, you are Lord Krishna who has returned among us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Yaksharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. O Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. By your recitation one attains transcendental bliss. Because your syllables shower down pure love of God, you are to be served by everyone always, for you are incarnation, Lord Krishna. Mareka bhando mat sanghin mat guru manmanantana manas nasti karaka bhaktya marananda namostute. O Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, O my only friend, my companion and my teacher, O my great wealth and deliverer, O my good fortune and bliss, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu saduta dhayin ati no charakara hanamucha kadachit mam premna hrit kataya spura. O Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Accompanied by pure love of Krishna, please manifest yourself in my heart and throat. Text 8. Titiyam Rishi Sargam Vai Deva Rishi Tvam Upetya Sa Tantram Satvatam Akasta Naiskarmyam Karmanam Yata Titiyam Rishi Sargam Vai Deva Rishi Tvam Upetya Saha Tantram Satvatam Achasta Naiskarmyam Karmanam Yata Titiyam Rishi Sargam Vai Deva Rishi Tvam Upetya Saha Tantram Satvatam Achasta Naiskarmyam Karmanam Yata Titiyam Rishi Sargam Vai Deva Rishi Tvam Upetya Saha Tantram Satvatam Achasta Naiskarmyam Karmanam Yata
Titiyam Rishi Sargam Vai
Titiyam Rishi Sargam Vai
Deva Rishi Tvamupetya Saha
Deva Rishi Mupetya Saha
Tantram Satvatam Achashta
Satvatam Achashya
Naishkarmyam Karmanam Yataha
Naishkarmyam Karmanam Yataha
Titiyam Rishi Sargam Vai
Titiyam Rishi Sargam Vai
Deva Rishi Tvamupetya Saha
Devam Rishi Mupetya Saha
Tantram Satvatam Achashta
Satvatam Achashta
Naishkarmyam कर्मणं यतः
नैष्कर्म्यं कर्मणां यतः
तृतीयं ऋषि सर्गं भाई
तृतीयं
ऋषि सर्गं भाई
देवा ऋषि त्वम् अपितुपेतसः
देवं ऋषि त्वमुपेतसः
तन्त्रं सततम् अचेष्टा
तन्त्रं सात्वतमाचष्टा
नैष्कर्म्यं कर्मणां यतः
नैष्कर्म्यं कर्मणां यतः
द्वितीयं ऋषि सर्गं वाय
तृतीयं ऋषि सर्गं
भाई
तन्त्रं सात्वतमाचष्टा
नैष्कर्म्यं कर्मणां यतः Tritiyam, the third one.
The third one.
Rishi Sargam,
Rishi Sargam.
the millennium of the Rishis.
The millennium of the Rishis.
Vai,
Vai.
certainly.
Certainly.
Deva Rishi Tvam,
Deva Rishi Tvam.
incarnation of the Rishi.
Incarnation of the Rishi.
Among the demigods.
Amongst the demigods.
Upetya, having accepted.
Having accepted.
Saha, he.
He.
Tantram,
Tantram.
exposition of the Vedas.
Exposition of the Vedas.
Satvatam,
Satvatam.
which is especially meant for devotional service.
Which is especially meant for devotional service.
Akashta,
Achashta.
collected.
Collected.
Naiskarmyam,
Naiskarmyam.
non-fruitive.
Non-fruitive.
Karmanam,
Karmanam.
of work.
Of work.
Yata,
Yataha.
from which.
From which.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. In the millennium of the Rishis, the personality of Godhead accepted a third empowered incarnation in the form of Deva Rishi Narada, who is a great sage among the demigods. He collected expositions of the Vedas, which deal with devotional service and which aspire non-fruitive action. Purport. The great sage, the great Rishi, Narada, who is an empowered incarnation of the personality of Godhead, propagates devotional service all over the universe. All great devotees of the Lord, all over the universe, in the different planets and species of life, are his disciples. Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, is also one of his disciples. Narada is the author of the Narada Pancharatra, which is the exposition of the Vedas, particularly for the devotional service of the Lord. This Narada Pancharatra trains the karmis, or the fruitive workers, to achieve liberation from the bondage of fruitive work. The conditioned souls are mostly attracted by fruitive work because they want to enjoy life by the sweat of their own brows. The whole universe is full of fruitive workers in all species of life. The fruitive works include all kinds of economic development plans, but the law of nature provides that every action has its resultant reaction, and the performer of the work is bound up by such reactions, good or bad. The reaction of good work is comparative material prosperity, whereas the reaction of bad work is comparative material distress. But material conditions, either in so-called happiness or in so-called distress, are all meant ultimately for distress only. Foolish materialists have no information of how to obtain eternal happiness in the unconditional state. Sri Narada informs these foolish fruitive workers how to realize the reality of happiness. He gives direction to the diseased man of the world how one's present engagement can lead one to the path of spiritual emancipation. The physician directs the patient to take treated milk in the form of curd for his sufferings from indigestion due to his taking another milk preparation. So the cause of the disease and the remedy of the disease may be the same, but it must be treated by an expert physician like Narada. The Bhagavad Gita also gives the same solution of serving the Lord by the fruits of one's labor. That will lead one to the path of Naiskarmya, or liberation. Translation again. In the millennium of the Rishis, the personality of Godhead accepted the third empowered incarnation in the form of Deva Rishi Narada, who is a great sage among the demigods. He collected expositions of the Vedas, which deal with devotional service and which aspire non-fruitive action. Hare Krishna. So Narada Muni, the transcendental spaceman, He is empowered representative of the Lord, pure devotee. He's a jiva like us, which actually gives us great hope. We see in the Panchatattva, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadara, Srivasa Gaura Bhaktavinda. Srivasa is Narada Muni, actually. And when we see this in the Panchatattva, we see that we have great hope that we can attain this position where we'll be in direct association with the Lord. It might take some time, some purification. But Narada gives us the hope that we will get there. And actually in the very same Bhagavatam, Narada Muni's sojourn to becoming Narada Muni is told. Actually the whole 6th chapter, which with the permission of everyone here, I was just reading it, and it's just so amazing. Narada Muni becoming Narada Muni. So I wanted to just read through the verses of this chapter. And as I'm reading, I'll pull out some points that are very relevant to us. So the chapter is entitled Conversation Between Narada and Vyasadeva. And it begins like this. Sutta said, "O Brahmanas, thus hearing all about Sri Narada's birth and activities, Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God, and the son of Satyavati, inquired as follows. Sri Vyasadeva said, 'What did you, Narada, do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in the scientific transcendental knowledge before beginning your present birth?' So Narada, before his birth as Narada Muni, was the son of a maidservant to some sages who were performing, who were enacting devotional service. And it goes on, 'O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation? And how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? O great sage, time annihilates everything in due course. So how is it that this subject matter, which happened prior to this day of Brahma, is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time?' Sri Narada said, 'The great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman, but a maidservant as well. Since I was her only offering, she had no alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection. She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. When I was a mere child of 5 years old, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands. Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time. I took this as a special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees. And so thinking, I started for the north.'" So what happened, Narada Muni's mother is described here. She was going out one night, and she was bitten by a snake and then died. And Narada, at this young age, he said he was just a mere child of 5. You know, he went out searching for the Supreme Lord. We see this also in the instance of Prahlad Maharaj saying that from the young age, one should search out for the Supreme. And Narada, the reason why he had the inclination to do this will be revealed now. After my departure, I passed through many flourishing metropolises, towns, villages, animals, farms, mines, agricultural lands, valleys, flower gardens, nursery gardens, and natural forests. I passed through the hills and mountains full of reservoirs of various minerals like gold, silver, and copper, and through tracts of land with reservoirs of water, filled with beautiful lotus flowers, fit for the denizens of heaven, decorated with bewildered bees and singing birds. Then I passed alone through many forests of rushes, bamboo, reeds, sharp grasses, weeds, and caves, which were very difficult to go through. Alone, I visited deep and dark and dangerously fearful forests, which were play yards of snakes, owls, and jackals. So we see Narada Muni going through all these different you can say obstacles or experiences. And Prabhupada is saying in these purports how the sannyasi is supposed to develop this full dependence on Krishna. Abhayam. He mentions in the Bhagavad Gita in the 16th chapter, Abhayam, quality of fearlessness. And it says that a devotee is meant to ultimately come to actually he's talking about sannyasi specifically, is supposed to develop this full dependence on Krishna, thinking that Krishna will maintain me no matter what. Even if I'm alone in a forest, I'm not alone because Krishna is in my heart. So we're meant to develop this regardless as being aspiring devotees, we're meant to develop this consciousness that Krishna is always with me. I'm never alone. And in this way we become fearless. Thus traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally. And I was both thirsty and hungry, so I took bath in a river, lake, and drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the Supersoul seated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls. This is a very, very important point. Using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls. This is a point about Sadhu Sangha. Narada Muni learned from the sages that he had to sit down and meditate on the Supreme Lord. So, what is this point of Sadhu Sangha? When we associate with sadhus, when we associate with advanced devotees, we pick up their method of worship. We pick up the way that they're engaging in devotional service, the method, and then we can start to not imitate but follow in the footsteps. As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead within my mind, with my mind transformed to love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart. So Narada Muni is getting darshan of Krishna. He's 5 years old. This is in his previous life. O Vyas, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord, and my Lord. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfied my mind's desire at once. It raises all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I silently got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view that form again, I could not see him anymore. And thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. Seeing my attempts in that lonely place, the personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all mundane description, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words, just to mitigate my grief. O Narada, the Lord spoke, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. So, in here we're seeing a lesson that comes again and again in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that the Lord will give us that initial taste of Krishna consciousness. We might feel, some ecstasy, some bliss, and like a bhas, some shadow. And Krishna gives us that as some beginner's mercy. And then here he's telling Narada, Narada got full darshan of the Lord, but then he retracted himself. And then the Lord goes on to explain, those who are not free from material desires in their hearts, can hardly see me. And we see in the 10th canto, actually Krishna reveals something else even further in the speaking to the gopis, 10th canto, 32nd chapter, 20th verse. It says, Naham tu sakyo bhajato pijantun bhajam yamisham manuvritti vrittaye yathando labdha dane vinasate tachchintaya yan nibrito navedha. But the reason I do not immediately reciprocate the affection of living beings, even when they worship me, O gopis, is that I want to intensify their loving devotion. Then they become like a poor man who has gained some wealth and then lost it, and who thus becomes so anxious about it that he can think of nothing else. So imagine, you have someone comes, gives you $1 million. Now you're making so many plans. I'm going to do this, do that, do this, do this. And someone just comes the next moment and takes it away.
Sorry, what was that from? Where was that from?
Oh, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10:32-20. So that's Krishna speaking to the gopis. And actually, it's either in Prabhupada's purports or the previous acharyas. I heard this in a class by Indra Prabhu. He was saying how there were other gopis also who heard the flute call of Krishna, but because they were not pure in their heart, they were not able to go and attend the rasa dance. They actually were locked up in their homes. And Krishna's saying, so he's saying this verse so they can build a desire to see me. So throughout our this verse is encouraging in the sense that we can understand that in this lifetime, as we go on in our devotional service, Krishna might not be revealing himself, and he's given us the reason why. It's because he wants us to increase. He wants us to get fired up, as the saying goes. He wants us to go deeper. Ram Roy Prabhu was making the point last night. I was like, Prabhu, how come some people they engage in this service, direct devotional service, and sometimes they leave? And he was mentioning how Prabhupada said it's due to weakness of heart. It's due to them not strongly enough trying to really root out these material desires that are within their heart. And they want to make some compromise and say, okay, whatever, a little for me, a little for Krishna. But these material desires that are within our heart, my Guru Maharaj describes them as a what is this thing that the Titanic crashed into? Iceberg. So an iceberg, you look at the tip of the iceberg, you look at it over the ocean, it might be just a little bit. But actually underneath the ocean, it's a huge mass of ice. So similarly, our material desires are like that. On the surface, it might seem like, oh, I'm practically a pure devotee, There's just a little bit of desire there and there and there. But why is Prabhupada again and again and again, and all the purpose, talking about material desires and root them out? Again, we can read through all 12 canals, and practically in every purport, Prabhupada is mentioning, material desires, how we have to root them out, how we have to engage in the process. We have to Chaito Dharpana Marjanam, cleanse. Because they're so deeply rooted. Kundincha Marjanam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed the temple, Kundincha, twice. Why? To make sure that those desires are rooted out. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada gives a really nice purport, a nice section, explaining all the different anarthas that can arise in the heart. And that will continue to arise. And there's also anarthas that are in a dormant stage. So sometimes as we engage in our devotional service, 10 years might go by, and then some desires start coming up, and you're just like, what's going on? Am I getting anywhere? But yeah, it's deeply rooted. It's said until we get to the level of bhava, actually, these attachments still remain to this material world, to our families. So we have to work. We have to strictly and sincerely practice. O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person. This is Krishna speaking. Just to increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires. By service of the absolute truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. Consequently, he goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world, after giving up the present deplorable material worlds. Intelligence engaged in my devotion cannot be thwarted at any time, even at the time of creation, as well as the time of annihilation. Your remembrance will continue by my mercy. Then that supreme authority personified by sound and unseen by eyes, but most powerful, stopped speaking. Feeling a sense of gratitude, I offered my obeisances unto him, bowing my head. Thus, I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. And so, O Brahmana Vyasadeva, in due course of time, I, who was fully absorbed in thinking of Krishna, and who therefore had no attachments, being completely free from all material things, met with death, as lightning and illumination occur simultaneously. Having been awarded a transcendental body befitting an association of the personality of Godhead, I quit the body made of 5 material elements, and thus acquired all fruitive results of work. And thus, all acquired fruitive results of work, karma, stopped. At the end of the millennium, when the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayana, laid down within the water of devastation, Brahma began to enter into him with all the creative elements, and I also entered through his breathing. After 4,300,000,000 solar years, when Brahma awoke to create again by the will of the Lord, all the rishis like Marichi, Angira, Atri, and so on were created from the transcendental body of the Lord, and I also appeared along with them. So there's Narada Muni making his appearance. And it's interesting, in the verse today we're reading, Narada Muni collected exposition of the Vedas which dealt with devotional service and which inspired non-fruitive action. The reason for Narada Muni coming right here in the beginning, we'll read on, Vyasadeva, who's his disciple, was actually feeling despondent. And he was thinking, I have compiled the Vedas, I have compiled the Mahabharata, the Itihasas, all the Vedic scriptures. So why am I feeling dissatisfied? So he turns to his guru, Narada Muni, and he says, Guruji, what's the problem? How come I am not feeling bliss, ecstasy? What is the problem? Narada Muni tells him. Narada Muni appears and he tells him, although great sage, you have very broadly described the 4 principles beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive pleasure there. So he's telling Vyasadeva, you have not sufficiently glorified devotional service. And that's why you're feeling despondent. You're not sufficiently glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So in our own life also we can see, to the extent that we are feeling dissatisfied, we can say, to that extent we're not properly glorifying Krishna. Because when we're properly glorifying Krishna, we become fully satisfied, parts and parcels of Krishna. We're eternally parts and parcels of Krishna. So Krishna satisfaction automatically gives us satisfaction. That's what we should be concerned about. What will please Krishna. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories, name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is of a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. And Srila Prabhupada says at the end of this purport, the last paragraph, we are sure, therefore, that everyone in human society will welcome Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, even though it is now presented with so many faults, for it is recommended by Sri Narada, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter. So the interesting thing that I was reading this and Prabhupada is making this point. Narada Muni has appeared in this chapter. So this is a very important point, that the Vani of a personality, of a spiritual personality, is non-different than the personality himself. So this is an important point about when we approach Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, when we approach Bhagavad Gita, when we approach the scriptures, we can understand that we are actually coming into association with these personalities. So we can pray beforehand, please, offer obeisances to the book. We say these prayers before we start reciting Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We offer obeisances to the author, Vyasadeva. We offer obeisances to our spiritual masters, through which we're connected through the parampara. And actually, when we're reading these pastimes, here Narada Muni, Vyasadeva, we're actually associating with these personalities. Srila Prabhupada in his purports. This is why Srila Prabhupada makes the point again and again. I think it was to Bali Madhan Prabhu. He said, what good is your 3 minutes of preaching if they don't take a book? Because ultimately what we're doing when we're out there, we're trying, humbly trying to convince the person to just take a book and assisting Srila Prabhupada in his preaching. Because Srila Prabhupada is going to preach them. Srila Prabhupada is going to give him his association through his purports. Prabhupada said, if you want to know me, read my books. Everything I've had to say, I've put in my books. These books are my transcendental ecstasies. So the deepest feelings of Srila Prabhupada's heart, his compassion for the living entities, his determination to serve the Supreme Personality of God, everything is present in these purports. And by coming in association, actually, my Guru Maharaj was giving one lecture, and he was saying how one of his godbrothers was leaving his body, and he was having the realization. He was saying we shouldn't read these books, Srila Prabhupada's books, just for knowledge. We shouldn't read Srila Prabhupada's books just to repeat what's in them. We should read Srila Prabhupada's also books to get his association. This is Prabhupada's society. How is this society going to go on if Prabhupada is not kept present? Ramroy Prabhu was mentioning last night, and also many Prabhupada disciples, this is one of the major concerns, is that the reading of Srila Prabhupada's books is not going on in his society. How are the devotees going to know what Srila Prabhupada wants? How are they going to know what is pure devotional service? All these other things start to come in. Deviations, better ways to do things. As if Srila Prabhupada has not already given us the best way to do everything. So this is a very, very important point that we have to understand when we're coming in contact with these books, their personalities. Srila Prabhupada is present in these books. That's why he's stressed so much. Books are the basis. You can't build a house without a foundation. So if your house or your so-called preaching is not built on the foundation of Prabhupada's books, then I'm sorry, this is not. Can we call it preaching?
You're going to struggle to sell the books,
Can we call it preaching? I don't know. You can call it something else, but I don't know if it can be called preaching. So Srila Prabhupada has given us that his purports and his association in that way. And Narada Muni is appearing again and again throughout the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Narada Muni comes, it says here, in the verse we're reading today, to propound the principles of pure devotional service. So in one such instance, we have one pastime of Narada Muni that comes in the 6th canto, and this is a pastime that happens with Prajapati Daksha. Daksha is a Prajapati. He's actually Narada Muni's brother. They're both sons of Brahma. And Daksha has a set of sons, 10,000 sons, called the Haryashvas. And Daksha is just doing his job. He was empowered to populate the earth. So he had these 10,000 sons who he was instructing to take up the task of populating the earth. Then comes along Narada Muni. And Narada Muni then gives him instructions. He says, my dear boys, don't waste your time getting entangled in all this. You're already doing these austerities. These austerities are meant to please Krishna. Just remain brahmacharis, live a simple life, and go back home, back to Godhead, to serve Krishna. Because they were intelligent, right away they realized, Yes, Narada Muni, you're telling us the correct thing. Thank you so much for saving us from so much trouble. They got up and left. Daksha was furious. But anyway, he said, okay, let me try again. Had another 1,000 sons, the Savalashvas. Again comes Narada Muni. He says, hey, don't you see your older brothers? They didn't waste their time with all this stuff. You also should follow what they did. He reiterated the instructions he gave. And again, they also decided, oh, yes, you're right. Let's not get entangled in this world. Material fruitive activities and karmic activities and becoming entangled with home, wife, society, friendship, and love. And they also left. Then Daksha is very interesting. Daksha curses Narada Muni. The verse in the is 6, where the curse comes is 6:5:43. And the verse goes like this, or 6:5:43. Says, Tantu kitana yatnastvam abhadram achara puna tasmai loke sute mudha nabhavet brahmata padam. You have made me lose my sons once, and now you have again done the same inauspicious thing. Therefore, you are a rascal who does not know how to behave towards others. You may travel all over the universe, but I curse you to have no residence anywhere. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Because Prajapati Daksha was a Grihamedi who wanted to remain in household life, he thought that if Narada Muni could not remain in one place, but had to travel all over the world, that would be a great punishment for him. Actually, however, such a punishment is a boon for a preacher. A preacher is known as Parivraja Chakacharya, an acharya or teacher who always travels for the benefit of human society. Prajapati Daksha cursed Narada Muni by saying that although he had the facility to travel all over the universe, he would not be able to stay in one place. In the Parampara system from Narada Muni, I have also been cursed. Although I have many centers that would be suitable places of residence, I cannot stay anywhere, for I have been cursed by the parents of my young disciples. Since the Krishna conscious movement was started, I have traveled all over the world 2 or 3 times a year. And although I am provided comfortable places to stay wherever I go, I cannot stay anywhere for more than 3 days or a week. I do not mind this curse by the parents of my disciples, but now it is necessary that I stay in one place to finish another task. This translation of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. If my young disciples, especially those who have taken sannyas, take charge of traveling all over the world, it may be possible for me to transfer the curse of the parents to these young preachers. Then I may sit down conveniently in one place for the work of translation. One thing that stood out to me, Srila Prabhupada, I was discussing with the local pundits last night, Vishnu Chitta Prabhu and Mahotsav Prabhu, the local pundits, and they were telling me that Prabhupada finished the 6th canto in 1972, and here he's making the point that he just wants to sit down and preach or finish his translation work of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which this shows how we saw the manifested pastimes of Srila Prabhupada continue. It just showed his great compassion that he continued at a unwavering pace, traveling all over the world, training his disciples, seeing that his institution took root in human society, to give people a chance to take up to Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said we are creating these temples and these centers for people to come and have an opportunity, a chance to hear about Krishna, because that is what will liberate us. That is what will ultimately give us satisfaction, the satisfaction of the soul. hearing about Krishna. And back to the verse, Prabhupada mentions in the purport how Narada Muni compiled the Narada Pantaratra, which is, Prabhupada mentioned how there's 2 tracks which we run on in this Krishna consciousness movement that he established, is the Panchatrikavidi and the Bhagavat Marg. Panchatrikavidi is described as the rules and regulations, archana, deity worship, and this is coming down for Narada Muni. Or Narada Muni compiled these the methods to do this and someone may say, well, chanting Hare Krishna is enough to get us to help us become pure devotees and go back to Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada poses the same question, and he answers this question in the purport to Canto 7, Chapter 5, verse 23. Prabhupada says that so in this purport, this is the famous verse, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Bhadanam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. So it's given in the 9 processes of devotional service, and Prabhupada gives an extensive purport, 13 pages actually.
Wow.
13-page purport to this verse. 7, 5, 23, 24. There's 2 verses. And he's going to thoroughly describe each process of devotional service. And in the Archanam section, Prabhupada here says, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can reach the platform of love of Godhead. One may ask, then what is the necessity of being initiated? Right? One might think, why do I need initiation? I'm chanting Hare Krishna all the time. So many Indians sometimes we meet. I'm chanting Hare Krishna in my mind all the time. I'm always remembering Krishna, always talking about Krishna. Krishna is always with me. Krishna is practically one with me. I have Krishna. But Prabhupada says the answer is that even though the chanting of the holy name is sufficient to enable one to make progress in spiritual life to the standard of love of Godhead, one is nonetheless susceptible to contamination because of possessing a material body. Consequently, special stress is given to the Archana Vidi, deity worship. One should therefore regularly take advantage of both the Bhagavat process and the Panchatrika Vidi process. And the process of deity worship keeps us clean. It gives the mind something to focus on. Or else we just follow our mind's demands here, there, and everywhere. Who knows where the mind will take us? Our mental speculation, can take us to the nether regions of the universe. So this Panchatrika Vidi system keeps us in the mode of goodness, and then it can allow us to properly perform the Bhagavat Marg. We wake up in the morning, we shower, we apply the tilak, we apply the Vaishnava dress, then we come down and do Mangalarti, then we sit down to chant our japa. But imagine if, for example, this is not an imaginative situation, it's actually a true situation. We were sitting one time, when we were part of we used to go to the Bhakti Center morning program, and one man came in smelling very bad. And he walked in while the devotees were chanting japa. And instantly, disturbance. He wasn't chanting japa. He was smelling like, very abominable. So, what happened was then the devotees were disturbed. No one was able to chant properly. They're just looking, who is this guy? What is he doing here? He smells so bad. So the Panchatrika Vidi, if he would have been, let's say he would have been bathed, it would have been proper behavior, but it came in with no one paid no mind, just sit down and chant. So yes, it is true that bhakti is independent. It is true. But Prabhupada is mentioning in the conditioned state, it is very difficult, practically impossible. Not impossible, but very, very difficult to engage in devotional service without having the rules and regulations in place. So that's why we have these rules and regulations, so we can engage in the process properly and then become purified to the platform of pure devotional service. And then Narada Muni appears in other places in the Bhagavatam as well. In the 7th canto with Prahlad Maharaj, he's instructing his mother. His mother, it's very interesting. Narada Muni is a renunciate, but he gives shelter to Prahlad Maharaj's mother in his ashram, and he is instructing Prahlad Maharaj, his mother, and Prahlad Maharaj is in the womb, and he's receiving these instructions. And we see the power of transcendental sound vibration. This is something then also those who do take to the Grihastha ashram, they're meant to engage their sex life. Krishna says, I am sex life, that is according to religious principles, so for propagating Krishna conscious children. So from the time the children are in the womb, they should be exposed to the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. They should be exposed to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Because from the womb, the soul is conscious. It's described in the third canto how within the womb the soul, the jiva, is praying to Krishna actually. Krishna, I've suffered so much, so many lives. I promise that this life when I come out, I will serve you. Krishna, I promise, I've suffered so much. And actually, that's Krishna's great mercy that he makes the devotee forget, or he makes the living entity forget his past lives, because or else they would be in so much suffering that they would practically die as soon as they would come out of the womb. So they've experienced so much pain, so much suffering. They remembered all the pain that we're going through, especially in the womb, being bitten by different worms and insects and all this different things. Then Narada Muni also plays a part in Krishna's pastimes. Narada Muni enters into Vrindavan. Mathura, when Krishna takes his birth, he comes, Narada Muni, and he talks to Kamsa. He says, Kamsa, you fool. You see Narada Muni instigating the pastimes, facilitating the pastimes of Krishna. He says, anyone can be Vishnu. Any of the child born of your sister, Devaki, could be Vishnu. Why don't you just kill the children? Come on. Why are you giving this weakness of heart? So then comes starts then, because at first he had spared the children of Devaki, the children that were being born, but then he started to kill them off because of Narada Muni. And later on, Krishna is now the king, and it's very interesting. Narada Muni then, later on in his pastime, goes around to Krishna's different palaces because he wants to see how Krishna is living in Dwarka. And he visited one palace. As soon as he goes in, Krishna offers his respectful obeisances and starts to worship Narada Muni. Now one might think, here's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why is he worshipping, this is his devotee. He's worshipping Narada Muni, a jiva. But Prabhupada mentions in the Krishna book, actually, that Narada allows or goes along with this. Because then also they say, what is the mentality of Narada Muni? He knows this is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's just letting him wash his feet. What is this? But Narada Muni goes along with it because he knows the inner purpose of the Lord. Right. Krishna wants to show how to properly respect the devotees of the Lord. So therefore, Narada Muni, serving Krishna in that way, allows him to wash his feet as a service to Krishna. So we see how Krishna, when he comes, he's setting the example for the way a society is supposed to run. And in this section, actually, when Krishna's Dwarka Leela is going on, Prabhupada is very much making the point of how this is exemplary household life. The wife taking care of the husband like this, and so on. The husband going out, taking care of the wife, and So many descriptions are given there. Ideal household life. And Krishna's coming to Krishna will wake up in the morning, perform his actually it's nice. He mentions there, he says, no matter how comfortable one may be with one's wife in the bed, he has to wake up early in the morning, take bath, leave the company of his wife, and engage in his morning duties, his worship. So Narada Muni is a pure devotee. And actually another place Krishna mentions that the only reason he has any opulences is because he worships the lotus feet of his devotees. It comes in the third canto.
Really? Wow. I don't remember that.
Yeah. Third canto. And after the Jai and Vijay, during the Jai and Vijay pastimes. Yeah. No, not Narada Muni, Krishna. Krishna is saying the only reason he has any opulences himself is because he worships the lotus feet of his devotees.
Is that when the Jai and Vijay are about to go?
It's actually the verses. Yeah, I'll show you. Canto 3, chapter 16, verse 17, I believe. No. I have it saved here. Let me pull it up. But he's mentioning this point, how and Lord Shiva makes this point also, how those who consider who say that the devotees of Krishna are not actually his devotees, but those who are devotees of his devotees are actually devotees. And here. It's 3:16:7. The Lord continued, because I am the servitor of my devotees, my lotus feet have become so sacred that they immediately wipe out all sin. And I have acquired such a disposition that the goddess of fortune does not leave me. Because I am the servitor of my devotees. So he's attributing his own opulences. That's the only reason he has any opulences.
3:16:7.
Yeah, 3:16:7. So he's giving that prerequisite. So that way we're seeing how worship of the devotees of Krishna is such a exalted thing. And even so, Narada Muni in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam he's worshipping Krishna to the Pandavas. Then he bites his tongue. And he says, my dear tongue, better that you worship the devotees of the Lord. Better that you worship the devotees of the Lord. He prays to his own tongue. So Narada Muni is such a transcendental. Narada Muni is the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. Actually, the whole reason the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam was compiled was because of Narada Muni. He's a spiritual master, and the spiritual master is meant to be worshipped. Sakshat Haritena Samasa Shastre. Ruptasatha bhav yata eva sabdi kintu prabhu ya priyavitasa bande guru shikcharanaravinam. The spiritual master is described in all the scriptures that he is non-different, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but at the same time he is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is the most dear servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yasya prasaro bhagava prasaro. Yasya prasaram bhagava prasaro. Yasya prasaram nagati gutopi. Dhayan suvam sasya. Yasyastri sanyam. Bande guroshi charananabindam. By giving pleasure to the Lord's servant or the spiritual master, then the Lord is pleased. He's not pleased otherwise. And therefore, 3 times a day, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. And the 11th canto, Krishna mentions to Uddhava that the Acharya should be seen non-different as himself. So we worship the spiritual master in that way. So that's Narada Muni. He is the transcendental spaceman. He is the pure devotee. He is the Acharya. the spiritual master. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written one nice bhajan about Narada Muni. So I'll just read the English translation and then we can end there. So this bhajan is called Narada Muni Bhajaya Veena. When the great soul Narada Muni plays his string Veena, the holy name Radhika Raman descends and immediately appears amidst the kirtan of the Lord's devotees. Like a monsoon cloud, the holy name showers pure nectar into their ears. Due to create ecstasy, all the devotees enthusiastically dance to their heart's content. All the inhabitants of the universe become maddened upon drinking these intoxicating showers of divine sweetness. Some people cry, some dance, and others become fully intoxicated within their minds. Five-faced Lord Shiva embraces Narada Muni and repeatedly shouts in ecstasy, while Lord Brahma dances very ecstatically and exclaims, "All of you chant, Haribo, Haribo!" It is a supreme happiness. Thousand-faced Anantashay sings it and calls out, "Hari, Hari!" By the influence of the transcendental vibration of the holy name, the whole universe becomes mad with ecstasy, as everyone relishes the mellows of the holy name. The holy name of Sri Krishna has fulfilled all my desires, and thus manifesting on everyone's tongue, Bhakti Vinod, the humble servant of the Lord, therefore prays at the feet of Sri Rupa Goswami that the chanting of Harinam always continue in this way. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, actually on this verse, on this song. This is a song sung by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The purport of the song is that the great soul Narada Muni is playing on his string instrument called the Veena and vibrating Radhika Raman, one of Krishna's names. So as soon as he plucks the strings and chants, all the devotees immediately respond to him, and it becomes a very beautiful vibration. Amiya dhara bhare se ghana. As the singing goes on in the string instruments, it appears that there is a shower of nectar, and all the devotees then dance in ecstasy to the fullest extent of their satisfaction. Then as they dance, it appears that they become intoxicated by drinking the beverage called Madhuri Pura. And as one becomes almost mad by drinking, similarly, all the devotees become mad in ecstasy, and some of them are crying, and some of them are dancing, and some of them, although they cannot dance publicly, are dancing within their hearts. Then Lord Shiva embraces Narada Muni and begins to dance and cry out in ecstasy. And when Lord Brahma sees Lord Shiva dancing with Narada Muni, he joins in and says, "All you kindly chant, Haribo, Haribo." Then gradually the king of heaven Indra also joins in great satisfaction and begins to dance and chant, Haribo, Haribo. In this way, by the influence of the transcendental vibration of the holy name of God, the whole universe becomes ecstatic. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when the whole universe becomes ecstatic in this way, my desires are satisfied. And I therefore pray unto the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami that the chanting of Harinam may go on nicely like this. And Govardhan, on the Radha Kund side, there is the Narada Kund. And in this part of Vrindavan, this Kund is still, one of the Kunds is practically untouched. You can see still the trees along the Kund. And there's a very beautiful deity of Narada Muni playing his Veena. Big brass deity. Very, very beautiful deity. So we can pray to Narada Muni, who is the pure devotee, who has direct association of Krishna, and who is the example of topmost preacher in this universe, that we can follow in his footsteps and also distribute the holy names and the glories of Krishna to all the fallen conditioned entities, at least here in New York, on his behalf, on the behalf of Srila Prabhupada and all the previous acharyas. Narada Muni ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, reflections? Or
I'm wondering if we have to begin this devotion.
Begin this devotion.
I won't begin until at least 2 devotees from downstairs come upstairs.
Is there any questions online?
Yeah, there is. So I have one question here.
You have a question.
You have a question?
If that's not from online.
So
Okay.
I was wondering if you can elaborate. What do you think might be the difference? What is the difference between following and imitating?
Following and
You
imitating.
were mentioning about,
Following and imitating. So, for example, Srila Prabhupada would say, I don't like my disciples to sleep. Srila Prabhupada would wake up at 1 a.m, to translate. So, I don't like my disciples to sleep doesn't mean that we should also wake up at 1 a.m. every day, like Srila Prabhupada did, and begin to do, whatever we do, our bhajan like that. But what he meant by that was that we should sleep only as much as is needed, as much as possible, not that we oversleep. So this is a case of imitation, following. Following would be like, we try to find out the amount of sleep we need that allows us to do our service nicely. Not that because we're so much engrossed in the at least myself, in the mode of ignorance, that the tendency to sleep is there, and I might sleep more than what's required. But then the following would be like, our acharyas and Srila Prabhupada said, try to minimize, but not at the cost of, falling asleep during your japa and falling asleep during the Bhagavatam class. And just get as much rest as needed, but not that we try to, sleep 1 hour a night, 2 hours a night, then like Srila Prabhupada try to be like, yeah, I'm going to go on and fire it up, and then we're sleeping in the Bhagavatam class, we can't chant around. That's my understanding.
Yeah. I think there's also put like a sutra, like follow the instruction and not the...
do as I say, not as I do.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
Spiritual master. For actually, in other people's cases, that's kind of sarcastic and derogatory. Like you say, some person is like, he's just commanding people to do something, but he doesn't do it himself. But in case of the spiritual master, the whole equation changes.
Yeah, he's doing much more.
He's doing much more.
But he's telling us to do it.
Just do as I say, not as I do. Otherwise,
you can't keep up.
Yeah, you can't keep up.
Yeah, it's an important point.
Yeah, I have a
Chincha?
question. You brought up the topic of material desires.
Yeah.
We see so much, even like people that are very advanced, even go down by these, like how Rama Prabhu was saying yesterday, by these material desires, where people are leaving Krishna consciousness. So how does one make sure that these material desires are not going to disturb one's devotional service in the long run? Seeing so many people fall out. How does it? Because they're very, it's like, you have some that come up that they're very, very strong.
Well, we have to remain sincere and determined in our practice. And we have to remain in good association. Because the moment we step outside of the good association of people that can check us and can constantly keep us, bringing us along, and then we'll start to fall victim to the dictations of our mind. So that's one of the crucial points. And also, there's these 5 processes of devotional service that I mentioned. So always staying in contact with the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, chanting the holy names, sadhu sangha, visiting the holy places, and the deity, worshiping the deity. Prabhupada actually in that purport, in the purport to 7.5.23, when he's talking about Archanam, he's specifically going really hard into the Grihastha devotees. And he's saying that the Grihastha devotees must worship the deities. They must. It's not a question, they must, or else they will fall down. They will fall down because what else? You're living at home, society, friendship, love. And if you're not connected to the deity worship, the Archanam, the form of the Lord, very easily become distracted. Easily become distracted, and then next thing you know, because the association you're having is of people who are just fully engaging in their material desires, you'll think there's nothing wrong with it. You'll think it's okay. We'll compromise in some way, saying, oh, whatever, yeah, a little bit here and there, and then we're full on, where my Guru Maharaj gives the example of one God brother who slowly started to go away. And at the end of his life, he was laying in bed, about to leave his body, and he's laying in the bed in the hospital, and he's watching TV. And like, oh, what happened? He's just like, I don't know. His whole life went by, 30 years, gone.
Wow.
So we have to stay in contact with, these 5 processes of devotional service and stay in good association. And ultimately, even if, if time, place, and circumstance puts us in the middle of the, Antarctica for some reason, I don't know why we would be there, but it's like you have no association of devotees, Prabhupada's books, they're there. Prabhupada is there. And we remain sincere. Actually, this point refers to book distribution, but you can apply it in different places as well. Prabhupada, he told his book distributors, they went in 1975, they went and they visited Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan, and they said, Srila Prabhupada, what is the method? How do we Prabhupada said, what is the method? How do we become what is the line? What is the best way to distribute books? And Prabhupada took his hand and he said, just teach them to be sincere, and then the Lord in the heart will guide them and tell them what they need to say. So Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. Yesam satata yutanam bhajati priti purvakam dadhami buddhi yogantam yesamam puyantite. Which means, to those who are constantly engaged in serving me with love, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me. So we have to really remain sincere and pray. Because ultimately, we can't overcome our material desires on our own. It's by Krishna's mercy only that He can remove them. And actually, it's interesting. It's mentioned in I was reading the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam yesterday. The pure devotees, their association, we could be protected from our material desires. I know my mind runs wild so many times, but then when you come into the association, let's say of your spiritual master, for example, then you're not thinking about all this. It's like these desires just like fly out of your head. You're like, oh, and you start reflecting. It's like, why was I even thinking about that? Like, it doesn't mean right now, because you're in the association of someone who's relishing, or who's feeling that connection with Krishna. And you can see that they're so much happier than what anything in this world can offer you. And they're just in so much bliss. So then you start thinking, I want that. I want to be on that level also. And then it encourages us to go on with the process.
Krishna Prasad, we're waiting for you.
Cruz?
We are waiting for Krishna Prasad.
Yeah. Alright, I guess we'll end here then. And there's a question online?
Yeah, there is.
What is it?
Bhakta Ankit.
Bhakta Ankit. Let's see. I'll just pull it up here and I can just read it. Hare Krishna Prabhus. Narada Muni showed extraordinary determination to achieve the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord at such a young age. The source of such determination for him was the ecstasy he experienced in the association of saintly persons he had earlier, which was a driving force for him. We also get the association of very exalted devotees in our life, but yet cannot show such a level of determination as exhibited by Narada Muni at such a tender age, even though we, being mature adults. One of the problems that I feel is that we tend to forget the great ecstasy that we experience in the association of great devotees, which often gets eclipsed by a previous taste of illusory pleasure when such exalted devotees leave or we cannot get their association. What would you suggest to keep such a fire alive in our heart, to maintain our determination when we cannot get such association? Sooner or later this will also happen to us when great association of exalted devotees we are getting, they will leave this physical world one day. Yes, that's a very, 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 very good point, Ankit Prabhu. In Govardhan this past year, this point was brought up, and it struck me really, really profoundly when my Guru Ma, Her Grace Nirikula Devi Dasi, she was making this point when she was offering to Srila Prabhupada. She looked at all of us and she said, all of you will one day have to face this moment when your spiritual master will also leave your physical presence. And it's devastating. It's crushing. You know, the departure of the spiritual master. But that is why we have to hang on to the instructions of the spiritual master. We hear that there's Vani, Seva, and Vapu, Seva. Vapu is the physical association, and Vani is the instructions. So we again and again and again and again have to contact the instructions of our spiritual masters, the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. And in this way, as we repeatedly hear, the instructions will start to seep in. And actually we'll have experience. My Guru Maharaj, he told me that when Prabhupada was leaving this planet, he didn't go to Vrindavan to see Prabhupada's departure. But he stayed in New York distributing books. And he said the next morning after Prabhupada had left, they all got the news, and that everyone was just completely devastated. But Prabhupada had given him instruction. Prabhupada had said to him, please, distribute my books. Kindly help me in this effort. Go on distributing my books. So they went out the next day, and him and his godbrother Pragosh, they said today is a day that of any days that we have to go out and distribute Prabhupada's books. This was the day after Prabhupada left. And my Guru Maharaj said he had a profound experience. He never felt closer to Srila Prabhupada than the day after he left his body, when he was distributing Srila Prabhupada's books in the airports, in the Port Authority, and like that. And so the realization he was giving was that Srila Prabhupada is present still now, today. He is present in his instruction. So yes, in our beginning of devotional service, our determination might be less, but as we engage in the process, as we read the instructions, as we engage in the instruction, we follow the instruction, we'll start to gain faith. And as that faith builds, our determination also builds. So our faith builds, our determination builds. And we have to also continue with the process sincerely. So we have to chant our 16 rounds. We have to follow the 4 regular principles. And by this way, we'll make gradual progress. It's stated in the Brahma Samhita, verse 59. I believe is either 59 or 60. 59. Premanas tar saracharas tar abhyasya nirantaram bodhayanatmanatmanam bhaktim ap yudamalaber. The highest devotion is attained by slow degrees, by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization with the help of scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. So yes, we might not have the determination of Narada Muni or Dhruva Maharaj in the beginning, but rest assured, if we stick to this process, if we read Srila Prabhupada's books, if we chant our rounds sincerely, if we follow the instructions of our spiritual masters sincerely, then the goal is assured. We will reach the supreme destination. Kalira dhosa nidhirajan asti yeko mahangunan kirtana eva krishnasya mukta sangha paramanya. This Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, but there is one good quality, that just by chanting the holy name of Krishna, that we will get to the land of Braja, Goloka Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for tuning in. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.